Hello and welcome back to the MC Championship video. MCC is not back yet, but there are certain games within the event that we could potentially see returning pretty soon. Let's assess the current situation of the now retired games of the past and discuss the likelihood of re-entering the Decision Dome dial in the MCCs of 2022. But before we begin, remember that only a small percentage of the people who watch my videos are actually subscribed, so I would appreciate anyone who chooses to hit the red button, so please consider it. So we are going to start with the games that are least likely to return to MCC ever again and work our way up to the games where a return to the event looks most promising, starting with the games that got upgraded but which remained a separate identity to their newer counterparts. For example, to get to the other side but without the whacking a fan element. This original iteration of the popular movement game was introduced in MCC 1 and existed up until MCC 6, then it was replaced with to get to the other side and whack a fan variant starting from MCC 7. The fan whacking aspect changed the entire game, which is why the older version and newer version are separated for me. But yeah, it's obvious that the Noxcrew will not downgrade the game back to its predecessor. And then there's big sales of build mod, which has now been cut down to just build mod on its own. But from each version the map drastically changed. Since it's much easier to say build mod than adding the big sales at part, the shortened name change was unexpected, but nevertheless the game is now called build mod, so there's no way it's going back to its incredibly long previous name, or the old season 1 map for that matter. But what about the standalone games that could see a chance, however slim, of returning? Skyblockle, introduced in MCC 1 and then replaced by Skyblockle in MCC 9, is another game which probably won't ever return again. Noxcrew replaced it because of how slow paced it was, as everything was played across one round on the same map, whereas the newer Skyblockle minigame has 3 rounds, so players that died early in round 1 can still make a satisfactory comeback in another round. Something which I would love to see happening is that the Noxcrew could rotate out one version and place in the other for every event. So for example, in one event Skyblockle could be in the roster, but in the next event it could be temporarily removed for Skyblockle, and vice versa. This was attempted with a public Twitter vote before the 1-year anniversary in MCC 12 put Skyblockle 1. Regardless, I definitely prefer Skyblockle as it's more action-packed, and since this is an opinion that a large proportion of the community share, it's unlikely that the Noxcrew would take the unpopular risk of adding Skyblockle back into the event now. Foot Race is an interesting game to discuss because although it's a known fact that it was retired and replaced with Ace Race starting from MCC 7, this forgotten game is still a shadow within the Decision Dome. Indeed, one of the Ace Race maps is called Python Script. The map layout largely resembles the original Foot Race map from which it was inspired from. So even though the game name may be gone, many of the mechanics from Foot Race have been re-implemented and reused into Ace Race, because there's still running and jumping to do, of course. It's just that more advanced mechanics like Elytra and Tridents have been added. So we can safely assume that Ace Race has swallowed up all good aspects of its predecessor, leaving no viable reason as to why we should expect to see Foot Race returning to Season 2. Let's move to Bingo. There have been 2 versions of Bingo, the first being Lockout Bingo, introduced in MCC 1, which was then replaced with the more exciting Bingo but Fast game introduced in MCC 6. Lockout Bingo has since been officially retired from MCC, however it has not been confirmed as to whether Bingo but Fast will be returned or retired. It was last seen on the Decision Dome dial for the last event of Season 1, which was MCC 13 of 12th December 2020, but it was last played in MCC 12 of 14th November 2020, and we have heard literally nothing about this game since then. So do I think Bingo is returning one way or another for Season 2? If you ask me, I think the general concept of Bingo is back in the form of the latest MCC game, Grid Runners, introduced in MCC 16 of August 28th, 2021. Both Bingo and Grid Runners are team coordination games requiring effective communication in order to accomplish similar tasks. So in reality, they're not the same, but they can be comparable. This therefore leads me to believe that the Noxcrew have no immediate intention of bringing back Bingo but Fast, but it's always possible and it would be great to see another team game re-added to the roster. Okay, here are the games that are most likely to return to MCC, starting with Rocket Spleef, a game which is really enjoyable to watch and play for both viewer and player, so I'm genuinely surprised it isn't back yet. Last played in MCC 13. There's no sign of its return either. No evidence, no proof, no confirmation from the admins at all. So while all the games were being revamped and reintroduced for Season 2, Rocket Spleef remained obsolete. At this point, we can only hope that it comes back, as I think we can all agree that it's a great movement game and it is truly spectacular to watch. Now, onto the final game to talk about in this video, and I've deliberately saved it to last because I know it's the most recognized and the most notorious MCC game of Season 1. I am, of course, referring to none other than Parkour Warrior. It was introduced as a very simple game in MCC 1, but an admin called Epic Landlord blew up the entire course in MCC 11 when Dream completed it for his 3rd time. Parkour Warrior is naturally going to be a very sensitive game to talk about, and during its time in the event, it had its fair share of controversy, just like the recent build mod situation. Some Noxcrew admins have publicly stated stated in the past that they do want Parkour Warrior to return, but we all know that the game needs slight improvements and new features if it wants to contend with the rest of the Season 2 roster and stand a chance of being played. Its simplicity is probably the reason why it was removed in the first place. You really can't do much else in the game besides constantly updating the different sections and levels, and this can get quite repetitive and boring for some, especially if many participants are massively struggling with this game as a result of it being so movement heavy. Remember, only 2 players have ever completed the entire course in its history. Is Parkour Warrior a game I would like to see return? Absolutely. Do I think it actually will return? Maybe. Perhaps another rotation can be done between Parkour Warrior and Parkour Tag, which was the replacement game first seen in MCC 12. But let me know what you think about these MCC games and their likelihood of ever returning to the event. I really want to hear some opinions, especially during this break we are currently in, as now is a solid time to sit down and speculate about the future of this incredible tournament. Well, I've been your host. I hope you found this video informative and enjoyable, and I'll catch you all in the next MCC video. See ya!